Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 19 of the Game Room podcast. It is currently 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern here in the United States. And the Wii U and 3DS eShops, from what I've read, are officially dead. Passing away here at 8 o'clock. It's actually 8:02, so it's gone. It's done. No more. I'm your host, Rome, alongside Devroro. Devroro, how you doing? And producer Jeff. All things considered. And producer Jeff on the ones and twos. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for asking.
We already got TJ in the chat. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's up, TJ?
Buenos dias, sir.
Buenos dias. Funny thing, Jeff. So I have these coworkers, and they primarily speak Spanish. It made me think of this, so you'll appreciate this. But they're primarily Spanish speakers, and the one girl was like kind of like freaking out the other day because it was like really busy. And you know what I told her? I said tranquilo.
Nice.
Tranquilo. And she's like, what? You know that? I was like, yeah, I know that. Anyways, we have a great show lined up for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about some good updates in the Xbox Activision Blizzard merger, or acquisition, excuse me. We're going to be talking about other things like the Spider-Man 2 possibly release month. And we're also going to be talking about game preservation and physical versus digital media. What is Devroro going to say? Probably something dumb. I can't wait. But let's jump right into the headlines. Number one, we got a little update on Alan Wake 2. Remedy Entertainment is confident that Alan Wake 2 will release this year with no delay, and development is going well. Quote, Alan Wake 2 is in full production phase. In 2022, the game was coming together on all fronts and will be ready for its highly anticipated launch this year in 2023. I am extremely excited for Alan Wake 2. Now, you still need to play Alan Wake, right?
I played about 75% of the game, and I liked it a lot. I want to go back and just play the whole thing, like, straight through. That would be really fun.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you would actually enjoy Alan Wake. I think that's something you would probably find pretty cool.
And it wasn't like at the time when I played it, I didn't like horror games. This isn't a horror game. There's spooky parts to it, but it's not a horror game. It's really fun.
The picture's got a little bit of a John Wick feel to it.
Yeah, it feels horror-y while you're playing it, but it's more of like the main character is a author who writes horror novels, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a novelist in general. I don't think he specifically writes horror, but I mean, I think he writes thrillers. He writes thrillers.
So the game plays off of that. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, and so Alan Wake 1 is a little less of the horror genre. They actually said Alan Wake 2 is going to dip more into the horror genre. So they're making it to be more scary.
Like that. It's a genre that can do scary very well.
And yeah, TJ actually asked a really good question about the eShop going down. Do hard copies of these games go up in value? We'll talk about that later. The Coog is here. What's up to the Coog? Tranquilo. All right, let's move on with number 2 in the news headlines. Something that I was actually impressed with. So Fire Emblem, they showed off this past week. They announced that the Wave 4 of the expansion pass coming April 4th and showed off a trailer of the new story DLC. And I gotta say, if you're not a Fire Emblem fan, it's gonna mean nothing to you. If you like Fire Emblem, especially Fire Emblem Engage, which I did obviously, I was actually impressed by the story itself. I thought it was just gonna be some like there's a cool twist to it. If you watch the trailer, it seems like you're facing I don't know if it's like dark versions or like alternate realities of like your allies, and like they're the enemies in the story. So it seems like a really cool little DLC that they're doing. I'm excited to jump into it. I'm also surprised that it's coming out as soon as it is. Wave 4 of your expansion pass 3 months after launch is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for this. I'm probably actually going to be picking up the expansion pass.
Do you know how many more expansions there are going to be? Did they say anything?
No, they just said it was one. This is the last wave. They said it's the 4th wave. It was only going to be a 4-wave expansion pass. So
Okay.
I don't know.
It's pretty big.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Fire Emblem Diehards, it's like Fire Emblem's not that large of a game. You know what I mean? It is, but it also isn't. So I don't know. I'm very excited for it. But that's coming April 4th. I don't know, Jeff. Why don't you, Jeff, in the chat, playing with the heartstrings, Jeff? I'm doing a gaming show right now, and you find that out and let me know.
Well, I'm working the
Okay,
buttons over here. You know.
Yeah, I got have Coog find out then and tell me. Maybe I'll die on a gaming podcast.
I'll click on it real quick.
Number 3, some interesting news that came out this past week. Microsoft is planning on launching their mobile gaming store, hoping to launch in 2024. The software giant revealed its plans for an Xbox mobile store last year, and now Xbox chief Phil Spencer says the company is building the store in the anticipation of companies like Apple and Google being forced to open up their mobile app stores. Spencer goes on to say, "We want to be in a position to offer Xbox and content from both of us and our third-party partners across any screen where somebody would want to play," said Phil Spencer in an interview with the Financial Times. "Today, we can't do that on mobile devices, but we want to build towards a world that we think will be coming where those devices are opened up." Microsoft first hinted at a next-generation store early last year, just a month after the company announced its proposed Activision Blizzard acquisition. The Xbox Mobile Store is designed to rival Apple and Google's mobile gaming store dominance and will rely on content from Activision Blizzard like Call of Duty Mobile and Candy Crush, two hugely popular mobile games published by Activision and King, respectively. While Microsoft is building an Xbox Mobile Store, it will need regulators to take action against Apple and Google to ensure such a store can thrive on Android and iOS devices. Apple doesn't allow alternative stores on its iPhone and iPad devices, and even rival payment methods aren't available in most countries. Companies like Microsoft and Spotify are hoping that the EU's Digital Markets Act will force Apple and Google to change how they distribute apps on mobile devices and ultimately open their platforms and stores up to competition. Spencer goes on to say that the Digital Markets Act that's coming, those are the kind of things that we are planning for. It's a huge opportunity. Microsoft has a small presence in mobile gaming right now, and the Xbox maker admitted that in a filing with the UK's Competition Markets Authority last year that they have no meaningful presence in the mobile gaming, and Activision Blizzard transaction will bring much needed expertise in mobile gaming development, marketing, and advertising. So this is kind of going in line with what Microsoft has been saying, that they want to have a presence on the mobile space, and obviously people aren't talking enough that this is very important for them with the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Again, Call of Duty Mobile and Candy Crush are huge on the mobile platform. Yeah. So I think them opening up their own storefront, I mean, those two games are going to keep that store. They're going to be the forefront of that store.
Yeah, that's true.
I played the Mighty Doom for like 10 minutes. Okay. It's fine. It's a mobile game. I would say
is like
so it's like an overhead shooter, but you're not really shooting, you're just moving Doom guy. So it's like you move him around and he just automatically shoots at whatever he wants to shoot at, I guess. Okay. It was fine. Again, like I'm not a mobile game guy, but it was free, so I was like, let me try it for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I was like, all right.
Yeah, I'm not a mobile game guy.
It didn't grab me at all, but I didn't expect it to.
Yeah, I think people will like it though. People like mobile games, especially younger kids.
That's true. Well, it is it's. I think it's going to appeal to that market pretty well.
So real quick, CM Punk is trending because Jon Moxley will be on Renee Young's podcast and he will be talking about CM Punk.
That makes me feel like it's a fucking work. You're like, that's great. Salute, It's water, it's not beer. Don't worry. Anyways.
And Riho will face Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's Championship next week in New York. Let's go.
Oh, nice. All right, anyways, let's move on to number 4. Netflix's Gears of War movie taps Dune and Doctor Strange writer John Spates. Let's go with Spates. Netflix's live-action adaptation of the popular video game Gears of War moves one step closer as Academy Award-nominated screenwriter John Spates has boarded the project. Best known for co-writing Dune Part 2, and Doctor Strange, Spates will now take on the challenge of adapting Gears of War, one of gaming's richest and most acclaimed video game sagas, with over 40 million copies sold. I'm excited for this. I can't wait for Gears of War.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed Dune, and yeah, I like Doctor Strange too. So like.
Yeah, and you know what? So Devroro, real quick, give me a little rundown. So we finished finally our playthrough of Gears of War. You are officially caught up in the Gears of War franchise.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about the Gears of War franchise? Just as a whole, just give it a quick little.
I like it a lot. The first 3 games definitely have a different tone than the newer ones, 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
I like the format and tone of 4 and 5 more, but I like the story of the original 3. I think seeing that story will be really cool. I don't know. That's really it.
Okay.
It's a fun game.
It is. I love Gears of War. It's one of my favorite games of all franchises of all time.
Really good gameplay, an engaging story.
Definitely. All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on and see what's in the future for Gears of War. Deborah, let's talk about some serious business next. Number 5 on the headlines. Deborah, do you recall the gamer lawsuit when video gamers decided to sue Microsoft in an attempt to block the Activision Blizzard acquisition?
How could I forget?
How could you forget? Well, the group of gamers who tried to sue Microsoft are faced with dismissal in court. Now, this one, like, obviously not a big news headline. Almost got the axe this week, but I couldn't resist not, I couldn't cut this. This is amazing. So the group of video gamers decided to file a federal antitrust lawsuit against Microsoft's attempt to acquire Activision Blizzard, suggesting the takeover could prove harmful to the industry. However, in a California court this week, a judge sided with Microsoft's motion to dismiss the lawsuit, stating that the complaint does not plausibly allege the merger creates a reasonable probability of anti-competitive effects in any relevant market. Here's an excerpt from the conclusion. The complaint's allegations are consistent with plaintiffs' theories that to satisfy their prima facie burden, they need only plausibly plead a reasonable probability the merger will eliminate a Microsoft rival. For the reasons explained in the document, the court disagrees. So it seems like these heroes they've fallen, Devroro.
Of course.
Should we play taps again?
No, definitely not. Not this time.
Okay, well, that's fine. But so that was great. I'm glad we can move on. Obviously, now that this hurdle has been jumped over.
Yeah, let's get to it. I guess more important stuff.
Like this was the real hurdle for them. Let's get these 10 video gamers. This was the one where they were like, guys, it might not go through.
Passed immediately. That was like the biggest hump.
Yeah. So we've jumped over the fun stuff. Let's get to something that a lot of people actually didn't really like, and I mentioned this to you on Thursday or Friday, whatever day it was when we were hanging out. So Ubisoft is developing an AI tool that aims to support script writers. Ubisoft Ghostwriter, it's called, will generate NPC phrases and sounds. According to the publisher, it will be used to generate the first draft of the chatter of crowds and triggered NPC lines. While these sounds and phrases are central to immersing players in its game worlds, Ubisoft said using AI to help do so will enable its narrative teams to work on less repetitive tasks. The technology has been created by Ubisoft LaForge, the research and development arm of the Assassin's Creed publisher. Introducing Ubisoft Ghostwriter, an AI tool developed in-house that aims to support our script writers by generating the first draft of our NPC barks, the phrases or sounds made by NPCs when players interact with the game world. This tool was created hand-in-hand with scriptwriters to create more realistic NPC interactions by generating variations on a piece of dialogue. See how our teams will use AI to handle repetitive tasks and free up time to work on other core game elements. So, Deborah, a lot of people in the games industry, both in the writing side and the reporting side,
disagree with this?
They've met with a lot of disagreement. Sony Santa Monica writer Alana Pierce, who actually has done great work, I'm a fan of hers. As a writer, having to edit AI-generated scripts dialogue sounds far more time-consuming than just writing my own temp lines. I would prefer AAA studios use whatever budget it costs to make tools like this to instead hire more writers. I think I read that right. She would rather them hire more writers.
Okay.
Corey Barlog, who over at Sony, he posted some stuff you could see in the article. I'm sure Jeff might be showing it right now. Yeah, people in general not a fan of this. What are your thoughts on this before I give my thoughts?
I think this is really cool. For reasons. If they do this right, I mean, it's Ubisoft. I don't think they're going to do it right. I think other companies can do it better in the future. I think this is like we're seeing it happen for the first time. But I think this could be really cool. It could free up, like, for what they're saying. If it's just NPCs and it's not main story characters, important characters, I think that's cool. Being able to and I talked about this with VR, with someone else. It'd be really cool if you're in a game and you walk up to an NPC and you just talk, and it does voice to text or whatever for the game to read it, and then that person, the NPC, just talks back to you because it's AI controlled responses. Mm-hmm. I think the future is going there. I just hope that it's not, and it's going to be, I think, in the beginning part. It's gonna ruin it for everyone, but I don't think they're gonna use it that way to just because when you're able to take resources away from one part of a game and put it onto something else because it's being taken care of by, you know what I mean?
Well, it
So,
definitely
yeah, I'm
sucks
not
for
a fan
voice
of it.
actors.
Yeah, it does. Because they have to now read this AI generated dialogue, which sometimes might not come through with a lot of humanity.
Is this just dialogue outside the game for now?
So they claim it's just NPC dialogue.
But I mean, it's not like it's not based off of they're writing a script and people still have to read that script. Is what this is?
Basically, I mean,
Okay.
here's
No. Just like the whole thing with Trump and with Biden, how they're making them say stuff. They're just gonna make the characters say things, and the
Yeah, that's
AI
what
is
I
gonna
thought.
generate it.
I thought it was more so that they were writing the dialogue and then someone was going to perform the dialogue.
No.
I don't know. They don't really make it clear on that, do they?
Yeah,
So it says, as a writer, having to edit AI generated scripts sounds far more time consuming than just writing their own. So they're saying that the AI is gonna write it and then they're gonna edit it.
Yeah, we'll have to see if it comes out with
I don't know. We will have to see. I took Jeff and I are taking it different ways. Either of us could be right because I take her saying that as like scripts, as in like written word on a script. You know what I mean? I don't know. Me personally, I would rather them not do this. I think that you're gonna laugh at this, but I think this is once again Ubisoft chasing a trend.
Well, yeah,
It's like Ubisoft's like, guys, trends, they're important, and AI is important. Let's have AI write scripts in our video games.
I mean, this was a useful trend. They already use AI in video games. It's procedural generated is a form of AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, I'm not a fan of that randomly generated stuff. I think a lot of it takes that a special. What's the word I'm looking for?
No, we can just saying
It just feels it doesn't feel authentically made.
But
like,
what if it's a lesser? That's not the important part of the game. You know what I mean? Like if it's background stuff.
NPC dialogue is world building.
No, I get that. So, like imagine GTA where all the NPCs are individual AI. They have their own like emotions and they walk away. They're going to work. They're getting in a car. You know they hear you shooting. I mean they do that already, but just a better version of that.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but the way that Ubisoft is saying this, they're saying, "Hey, this is going to write dialogue for our scripts. These NPCs aren't going to like be sentient now, or like you know what I mean. They're not going to act sentient. I'm saying like they're generating dialogue.
And I think when other studios get this, and like if Rockstar Bethesda's hand could be really good. You know what I mean?
So what I would do if I was them is I would not have it write the script because you're having someone go back and edit that script, which is a waste of time and resources anyway. So have them write the script, but it would be really cool for that NPC, like you guys were saying, to be standing there and have the AI look at the game as a whole, and the AI can take into account everything that happens in the game, and then it can generate things to say back to you, that are not just, necessarily written in the script. That would actually be cool. If there could be unique responses that are just automatically generated, that would be cool.
And I think that'll come more often where we're able to just talk to our game. Right now, we have to choose from a select dialogue from our own character, so they're just reacting to us anyway, and you just make that like set in the game.
I would just caution in terms of the narrative and the writing of the game. Like I would just caution moving away from the writer's integrity and not integrity, but the writer's purpose.
I get that,
I would just be I would be concerned at that.
It's one of those things where when you're playing GTA and you're running down the street, the characters just say the same thing the last character down the street just said, like, "Oh, you're like, why isn't it more original? Like, why isn't it like, I saw you almost hit that lady. Like, it's just
I get it, and I understand that obviously AI has a lot of use, but at the same time, I look at it as a
we just don't trust
having a human being working on something like this.
But they
would rather have a human being be writing
the human touch.
Exactly.
But the human touch isn't just that though. Like, there's other things in the game. You don't play GTA for the NPCs that run. You know what I mean?
No, but all of those one-liners that are hilarious that make me stop and look like this guy was hilarious. That's all written by a person, and that's world building.
But the stuff I appreciate about the game is like all that stuff can have more. They can spend more time on that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like you're having that world building is important. And if I'm playing like San Andreas, since we're talking about Grand Theft Auto, I'm playing San Andreas and I'm CJ and I'm walking down the street and the guy next to me is like, "You fat fuck!" Like that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like that.
And also, that no pixel stuff, having all the NPCs are real people, the human touch really does make a big difference. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, again, I think the human touch is just it's very important.
For playing Minecraft, you don't need the section that you're going to be sculpted by like an artist. They procedurally generated that,
Okay.
and it's good and it works for that game.
Sure.
And they focus on other things. They're creating content. There's more characters, more monsters. I think they just added a new monster in a cave update or something like that. Like you can, it's not
I
like
can see
they're
that.
cutting a section off and they're firing these people. They can be moved on to other things and just enhance the game in general.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Devroro wants video game writers to lose their jobs so the AI can take over writing scripts.
Absolutely, I've been saying it for episodes. I don't know why it took us this
Yeah.
far.
You know what would be crazy? You know what would be crazy is, you know how there's quests in a lot of games. Imagine that the AI, like the guy that you're going to, that the quest is AI generated. Like it's not always going to be the same thing.
That
So
I
you
don't
and
know.
I could play the same game, and we don't play the same game. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So I have what may be considered a hot take in terms of I am not a fan of randomly, and we already said it, but like RNG or I don't know if that's what I'm looking for, but just randomly generated game worlds, roguelikes. I'm not a fan of that. I think that again, it's all about the human touch and just having a level or a world that somebody sat down and made it out and thought it out. I just think that 9 times out of 10, even though it can meet the purpose of the game, it's like, oh, you're going into these caves and like of course every cave would technically be different and like the AI can generate it in a way where that's true and that's great. But like there is just something again, the human touch about someone sitting down and making a level, making a cave,
yeah.
making the layout of the
But you
cave.
act like we lose that with AI. That's the thing that you.
I think that when you, I think that when used, you will eventually like people are going to push it to that point.
I
It's like
still
Like I
think,
want a game to be like here's the thing, and we can agree to disagree on this, and that's fine. If I'm like Octopath Traveler 2 right now, I'm playing it, and so kind of what Jeff said. If I were to play it and I do all the side quests, which I'm doing, and I enjoy them and whatnot, if I were to pick up the game like 2 years from now and all the side quests were different, I wouldn't like that. I would want to like, oh yeah, it's this side quest.
it doesn't fit every game. For obviously, it doesn't fit every game, but I just think it's a tool, and it's a really powerful tool. It's like it could still enhance. It's like if someone was making a sculpture with, machine tools instead of a hammer and chisel.
Sure.
They're still making art and great art, and maybe they can do it faster now. That's all.
so one thing I want to throw in there is what I would say to you, Rome, is that an artist still had to make all of those assets, like even though it's a procedurally generated world, they still had to make the grass, they still had to make the trees and the rocks and the caves.
Yeah.
And then the AI kind of puts it together for them. So I still feel like there is an artist who's really going to get a sense of accomplishment out of it still. You know what I mean?
Starfield, their planets are procedurally generated, and it's
Sure.
beautiful.
Okay.
As what I'm saying is, it's a tool. It's just a tool.
I'm
And
okay
it
with
can
that.
be abused. Of course, it can be abused, and it's going to be abused at some point. Every new tool is.
Sure.
But I think when it's used right, when Bethesda starts doing this to theirs, and Rockstar starts doing it, you start seeing it, you're like, oh, this is amazing.
Sure. I still want the human touch to be there.
Yeah, of course, it's not going away.
That is my concern.
Yeah,
And that will continue to be my concern.
I get that. I get it.
But I understand
It's
that.
like I'm the same with music. I don't want to like AI music. If I start liking AI music, I'm gonna freak out. Like I like the
Oh
human
man,
music. That's scary to me.
there's an AI metal band that just came out, and everybody's like, "Who is this?" And it's just a bunch of AI orcs from
God.
World of Warcraft, and
Okay,
it's
well,
so good.
I mean, it's not AI. It's just it's vocally voiced. But I mean, Hatsune Miku is pretty cool.
And so,
I'm into a good amount of that. Her music. I'm gonna say her. 'Cause that's
yeah, and like I get that. It can be cool. It can be used right. I feel like she uses it right, and
yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 7. September is going to be a packed month, it seems, as the Spider-Man 2 voice actor says that the sequel will be released in September.
What is up with Peter Parker's?
No, it wasn't Spider-Man.
Okay.
It was the voice of Venom.
Okay.
Sorry, the headline is kind of misleading.
Yeah.
But Tony Todd, the voice actor behind Venom in the upcoming Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man 2, revealed that the game will release sometime in September. It was previously only revealed that it would drop in fall of this year. On Twitter, Todd posted a picture of himself working with motion capture when someone exclaimed that they couldn't wait for more details about Spider-Man 2. Todd responded with, "Looks like September. Massive publicity coming in August. Commercials start dropping in August, so I'm told. Hold on, cheer, and hold breath. Gonna be necessary. So it's like this guy just completely. No, absolutely not. He completely laid out the entire plan for this game's release. It's like, so you're gonna start seeing commercials in August. You're gonna get some big reveals in August, and then you guys will be playing it in September.
That's great.
Sony did not respond to IGN's request for comment on this. While this is far from a confirmation, since Insomniac itself didn't officially announce a release date, having this information come from someone who's directly working on the game is worth noting. I don't think.
I wonder how much trouble he's in.
So I don't think that IGN knows. So the article doesn't mention it, but he actually ends up posting something else later on, and it's like it's kind of a like, well, I said what I said. Oops. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, it's probably real. So it's coming out in September. So Spider-Man Starfield. There's your September.
That's a rough September.
Rough or great, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
That is a you want to talk about the console wars, man. People are gonna like the fanboys are gonna be going wild in September.
Yeah.
That's when it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Spider-Man 2 though.
Yeah. They're both gonna be good, so.
That might be the game I buy in September.
Okay.
Because obviously Starfield's Game Pass.
Yeah.
So, but usually at the end of the year, there's way too many games coming out. Usually. I haven't broken my rule yet this year, so you know, one game a month.
When do you think the first month will be where they're struggling to?
I don't know. I'll let you know. Well, I know April. So March was supposed to be that month because it was Bayonetta, Resident Evil, and Star Wars. Star Wars got pushed to April, and then I didn't buy Bayonetta because I just haven't played 3 yet. I was like, I want to. Like, that would be a great birthday present, Bayonetta Origins. Because I'm going to play it. Like, that's a game I'm going to play. I just got to play 3 first. Octopath's taking up way too much time for me right now. Anyways, yeah, so very excited for that. Speaking of other new games coming out, Redfall had a bunch of information. The previews came out this week. Very positive so far. VGC says that Redfall is shaping up to be an utterly engrossing single-player experience. A lot of outlets spoke very positive about the game. I think, who was it? Jez Corden from Windows Central, big Xbox reporter. He said that for him, he considers it a game of the year caliber type game. It's going to be in the discussion. Some other notes about the game. There's no store in the game. There's no microtransactions. This is not a live action game. They are planning on bringing DLC characters to the games in the future. Arcane is working on making the game playable without an internet connection. A lot of people were very surprised at the preview events. They focused on single player. This was not a multiplayer hands-on preview. Okay. It was a single player.
It did feel a little live servicey, so like hearing this stuff, it's
lots of previews praise the gunplay. There's a quote: "The minute-to-minute gunplay is phenomenal. At its core are design ideas that have enabled memorable exploration and narrative. Redfall is shaping up to be the studio's strongest shooter to date." And another preview quote says, "A compelling mix of Dishonored, Borderlands, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer." I'm very excited for Redfall. Like, I am so glad this game is coming out before Zelda because I'm probably gonna like jump in May 2nd and just be like, 10 days, here we go, let's do it before Zelda. Just bang it, just try to bang it out.
Oh man, this would be a fun game to play together.
We will. We will.
I know you got to get it done before Zelda.
I mean, like, if it becomes our weekend thing or whatever, like, it is what it is. Okay. But yeah, no, I'm so excited for Redfall. Just watching those previews and talking about the world and traveling through the world and how side quests set up other side quests and going through houses and how many of the houses you can go through. I think it's like almost all of the houses in the town you can go through, and like different loot. It's just, I'm so excited for Redfall. Okay. I'm very, very excited for Redfall. But we won't have to wait long for that though, because we are about a little over a month away. Number 9 on the headlines: GameStop posts its first profitable quarter in 2 years. GameStop is back in the green as it reported a profit of $48.2 million in the fourth quarter in the fiscal year that ended January 28th. The video game retail giant reported its financial results during an earnings call last week, marking its first profitable quarter in 2 years. The company's net income of $48.2 million is a slight improvement from the net loss of $147.5 million last year. However, the rest of the numbers aren't exactly the best. GameStop's net sales dipped to $2.226 billion from $2.254 billion in the fourth quarter of the last fiscal year. Also saw a decrease in its net sales for the year at $5.927 billion from $6.11 billion the year before, as well as a drop in inventory to $682.9 million from $915 million. So I put this in here because it was nice to see. Again, it kind of ties in with our topic of the show. It's nice to see GameStop turning a profit.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that it is, but I'm happy it is.
So here's an interesting tidbit, right? So I went to GameStop to buy Resident Evil 4 this past week, and I know that they're salespeople. So this lady could have been just completely BSing me. I'm not just completely throwing that out. So I would go in there because Amazon screwed me, and I'm right now on a very strict. If Amazon delays my game, I'm canceling the pre-order, going to GameStop. What I'm doing.
Okay.
And so far, every game that I've bought this year has been GameStop. Yeah, because they delayed Fire Emblem, and then they delayed Octopath, and then delayed Resident Evil. And
I almost feel like you should just go back to pre-ordering. And
I'm very close. It's very close. Like, why am I paying for Amazon Prime if you're going to delay every single video game pre-order? But anyways, so I go in there and I ask for Resident Evil 4, and she's like, "Oh, okay, let me go see if we have enough copies." And she's like, "Oh, we got 2 left." I was like, "Oh, 2? Jeez. This is launch day for a big game. Like, that's kind of surprising." And she's like, "Have you been a GameStop customer for a long time?" I explained, "Yeah, obviously, yeah. I have been." And she's like, "Well, so you remember when GameStop like used to just order like a crap ton of games and like you could walk in day one and just buy it?" She's like, "Well, GameStop has actively lowered its inventory that it brings in, and you would have to assume it could be cost cutting." But she's like, "Nowadays, pre-ordering at GameStop is actually a lot more important because there really is a good chance, like a decent chance for every game that comes out, you might not get a copy on launch day." And again, it's sales. And I did end up pre-ordering Zelda while I was there, just because I don't trust Amazon. I put a $5 down on Zelda just in case. But I don't know. Again, it's a sales job, and I've seen people. I know people that worked at GameStop, and I've heard the BSing. So she could have just been BSing. But I thought it was an interesting tidbit here, alongside this news article that like, oh, they just don't order as many new copies of games as they used to. Yeah. Okay. But moving on to number 10. This is kind of one of the bigger headlines of the week. We finally got some progress, some real progress, in the CMA, saying that the merger of the Activision acquisition, it will not hurt competition in the console gaming market. Their provisionary concluded that Microsoft's Activision Blizzard deal will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in console gaming services because Microsoft is unlikely to withhold Call of Duty from PlayStation. The following is a direct quote from them. They say, in them being the CMA, in February, the CMA published provisional findings setting out that the deal raises competition concerns in relation to both console gaming and cloud gaming services in the UK. The publication of the provisional findings initiated a period of consultation in which the CMA invited responses to those findings from interested parties and continue to gather further information. The CMA has received a significant amount of new evidence in response to its original provisional findings. Having considered this new evidence carefully, together with the wide range of information gathered before those provisional findings were issued, the CMA Inquiry Group has updated its provisional findings and reached the provisional conclusion. They say provisional.
You said the word a few times.
That overall, that's why I keep stumbling. Overall, the transaction will not result in a substantial lessening of competition in relation to console gaming in the UK. The most significant new evidence provided to the CMA relates to Microsoft's financial incentives to make Activision games, including Call of Duty, exclusive to its own consoles. While the CMA's original analysis indicated that this strategy would be profitable under most scenarios, new data, which provides better insight into the actual purchasing behavior of Call of Duty gamers, indicates that this strategy would be significantly loss-making under any plausible scenario. On this basis, the updated analysis now shows that it would not be commercially beneficial to Microsoft to make Call of Duty exclusive to Xbox following the deal, but that Microsoft will instead still have the incentive to continue to make the game available on PlayStation. The CMA's addendum to its provisional findings today relates only to competition in the supply of consoles, and not to competition in the supply of cloud gaming services, where the CMA is continuing to carefully consider the responses provided in relation to the original provisional findings. The CMA's merger investigation continues, and it remains due to issue its final report by April 26th of this year. What are your thoughts, Deborah?
Yeah, I mean, they're right. Like I still get why Sony had to do it. There is a fear of like they could take it away, but this is nothing he said there is wrong. They have reason to put it on PlayStation. I never thought they weren't going to. It's just that there's a possibility that they couldn't, and that's why you have to fight it.
Well, Microsoft has also put out a response to this. Microsoft says it welcomes the CMA's decision to fix its financial model. We appreciate the CMA's rigorous and thorough evaluation of the evidence and welcome its updated provisional findings, says Rima Aleli, Corporate Vice President and Deputy General Counsel for Microsoft, in a statement to The Verge. This deal will provide more players with more choice in how they play Call of Duty and their favorite games. We look forward to working with the CMA to resolve any outstanding concerns.
Now let's just get it over with, so we can be done with this.
Well, unfortunately, we're not, because we are going into a side note, which I actually want. You don't have this, but I actually found a way better link for the script. So just bear with me. So members of the U.S. Congress are pressing to take action on PlayStation Xbox console competition in Japan. Sony has paid third-party game publishers to preclude access to content, negotiated exclusivity that prevents popular video games coming to Xbox. So 11 members of Congress argue that Sony is unfairly hurting Xbox in Japan. Policymakers raised concerns this past week to Biden officials, saying Sony's business practices in its native Japan are blocking U.S. companies from competing in that country's gaming market and could be running afoul of U.S.-Japan trade deals. Man, we became a political show real fast. The unexpected pressure became public on Thursday when Senator Maria Cantwell, a Democrat from Washington, passed U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai on it during a trade hearing. 10 members of the House also sent 2 letters on Thursday to Tai and Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, urging action.
Definitely jumped the scales a lot recently.
Yeah, it's like New Jersey, Ohio. I don't want to.
Ohio.
It
means good morning, by the way.
The Japanese government's effective policy of non-prosecution when it comes to Sony appears to be a serious barrier to U.S. exports, with real impacts for Microsoft and the many U.S. game developers and publishers that sell globally, but see their earnings in Japan depressed by these practices. A letter to Tai and Raimondo from 6 Democratic lawmakers from Washington State, where Microsoft is based, covers similar ground. Obviously, being the same state as Microsoft's based in, probably a little bit of money going on there, but you never know.
Yeah.
Probably, again, they're gonna keep it real. But yeah, this has been quite the interesting thing going on.
It could just be like growing up in Japan, you see it more often because it's a Japanese company, so it could just be like people are around it. But I'm not.
But no, I mean, we talk about this. Sony locks up a lot of the Japanese market with these JRPG exclusivities.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're like purposely buying out advertisement stuff in Japan. I just think
but it goes beyond advertising. We've talked about it. Like Sony legitimately pays for these JRPGs not to come to Xbox.
I don't think there's anything wrong with paying for an exclusive. I told you that before. I don't think.
I know we could agree to disagree, but again,
it's not even that. That's not even the issue. The issue is that they're blocking American games and.
No, the issue is that they're blocking competition in Japan because if you're in Japan, obviously, your gaming tendencies in Japan are going to lean towards the games that are made there. The same thing happens here with Western developers.
That's what I'm saying.
It would be like let me flip this because it actually kind of is the concern, right now, where it's like, oh man, Xbox, a Western gaming, game console. What if they make Call of Duty, which is a Western game, exclusive to their platform?
Yeah.
Like that's a legitimate concern. If right, would you agree with that?
Yeah.
flip that around. It's the same thing. If you're PlayStation and you're paying to make these JRPGs not come to Xbox, you are cutting off an entire country, and it's true. And while the Xbox Series consoles have done better in Japan than any console to date, it's still definitely worth noting that they don't do well there, and they don't have the games that Japanese, the Japanese gamers, they want to play.
That's what I'm saying. That's not the issue here. Them buying the games and putting on the consoles is not the issue. The issue is not allowing Xbox to grow there as well. That's what the issue is.
Right, but it's because of these deals that the problem it comes up. That's where it is.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with having like, hey, I want this software on my box.
Right, but you're
paying money for it.
But again, you're doing it to shut down competition, and that's where it comes.
The shutting down of competition is not allowing the other. It should be an equal race.
Finish your what were you saying? What were you gonna say there?
It has to be. If you imagine, like, if they're growing these two plants, it has to be fair that both of them get sun and both of them get water.
Absolutely.
You shouldn't allow. But
if one guy's like, well, I'm gonna pay the water guy to not give you the watering can, like, okay, well, there you go.
No, I think it's more like, I'm going to purposely cover up your flower with sun. I think there's nothing wrong with making your company better. That's what I'm saying. You have to just allow both to live.
For me, it just depends on if you develop.
If I'm paying money to put someone else down, it's like a direct attack. Putting a game on a system personally is not a direct attack against Microsoft. It's boosting Sony. It's boosting PlayStation.
So this letter also goes on to say that they allege that Sony PlayStation has 98% of the high-end console market in Japan. They signed deals designed to keep hit Japanese games from Microsoft's Xbox, and says that such moves may violate Japan's antitrust laws. So, I mean, what they're saying in this letter, both, it's the truth. It's like, if you're,
but what do you
again, if you're paying to keep,
what is paying for an exclusive?
Again, I think it really comes down to the situation itself. I mean,
it isn't.
If Nintendo, again, if
it's literally by definition, this game is on our console. We paid for you to do this.
So let me ask you this, right? Shenmue 3. Here, I'm going to go out of left field here with an example on you. Shenmue 3, Shenmue 1 and 2. For the Sega kids out there, I'm not a Sega kid, but the Sega kids love Shenmue. Never played them. Don't really care about Shenmue. However, Shenmue 3 was announced as a Kickstarter back in the day, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, hey guys, we want to make Shenmue 3, but we don't have any money to make Shenmue 3, so can we get a Kickstarter going? And they successfully funded it. It was one of the most successful in terms of raising money. I mean, people really wanted Shenmue 3.
Yeah.
So they fund this game, and then Sony comes in and pays for exclusivity of it. That's scummy. That's not scummy. It's scummy. Could you imagine?
What?
Could you imagine if you were like, oh wow, Shenmue, I can't wait to play this on my Xbox. Then you fund it, and then they're just like, sorry guys, Sony paid for it. You can't.
I mean, that part sucks. But if you don't think Sony's money was involved in making the game,
no, they said the game was already funded. They funded.
But okay, that's fine.
But they doubled their goal.
But if you don't think that money was used to make the game better, then I don't like.
But it doesn't. It's not the case. It's not the case. It's just straight up not the case.
We don't know that.
The game was going to get made regardless.
Yeah, of course it was.
Here's the thing. Look at like we've talked about this. Look at Bayonetta 3, right? Or Bayonetta 2, 3, whatever. Every game after the first Bayonetta in the Bayonetta franchise. That game was done. They weren't interested in spending any more money to make that game. Nintendo comes in and they say, hey, what if we pay to make these Bayonetta games? Will you make them? Hell yeah, we will. We weren't going to make them anyway. That's okay, though.
No, it's the same.
It's not the same thing. The game wasn't going to be made.
Still getting paid.
The game wasn't going to be made without Nintendo's financial support there. They straight up said that. Platinum said, Bayonetta was done. We made the first game. It was cool. It was a cult classic. We were done. We didn't have the funds to go out and make another one. And then Nintendo's like, well, we'll just pay for them to keep getting made if they come to Nintendo consoles. That's fine because Nintendo had a key role in the game existing.
But we don't.
You mean to tell me that Square Enix wasn't going to put funding into Final Fantasy VII Remake? Please think about that before you answer that question.
I'm not saying that they're not, but the money that Sony put in is going towards the game. If you're saying that they took all the money that Sony gave them and it's still in the bank and they haven't touched it, you're being insane too.
No, it probably helped with marketing. They probably paid for the marketing.
Exactly.
But that's marketing. That's not the game. It's marketing. It's not the game itself.
If you don't think it went to developers, it went to music, it went to production of
I think all of that would have been just as good without Sony.
Yeah, but money makes things better. It just does. And when you make it exclusive, it's all it does. It's like if you had a restaurant and I'm mad at you for buying the best tomatoes.
So you're telling me. So you're hold on. So you're telling me if Sony doesn't pay for Final Fantasy VII to be exclusive for PlayStation, that game is not the same game that we get today.
Probably.
That's insane to me.
You don't think something would be a little bit better, a little bit changed, a little bit different?
No, because they paid for it post. It was announced as a timed exclusive.
Yeah.
Which means that they already paid a little bit, and then it just never came out, which means they paid even more to change the deal after the game had come out. So it's like, what do you mean? Where'd that money go, Devroro?
For the time exclusive one, that was afterwards. I'm talking about
But I'm talking about both deals. I'm talking about the deals in general.
I'm talking about the one that hasn't come out yet that they're working on, and Sony put money into that. It's being used. It's not sitting in a bucket somewhere.
I'm glad that you talk regularly to Mr. Sony, and Mr. Sony told you that. That's really nice. That's great.
But you're doing the same thing. You're like, oh, they're just using your money.
Anyways, so Satya Nadella 1 month ago said we should rather look at the console share of Microsoft in Japan. That's a question that somebody should ask and say, oh, I wonder why that is. That's small, and maybe they should start actually competing more.
That is the bigger issue here. Let Xbox live in Japan.
Also today, the European Commission started seeking feedback for guidelines on exclusionary abuses of dominance. Not related to specific companies yet, this could go in similar directions, looking at Sony's exclusivity practices as they are also the EU market leader. Okay. I would love for this stuff to come out of like all the stuff that Microsoft subpoenaed them, and I would love for it to just be like, yeah, this money just went to like this money was. Look, I think that Square Enix made Final Fantasy VII Remake a top priority. There's no way that game doesn't get all of the money that it got into it with or without Sony. The day trading Doge says, "Why my chat no scene?" I don't know. What, did you say something before that?
It looks like he figured it out.
Oh, okay. Doge aims from Japan. He's from Japan. Look at that. All right, so here, okay, so Doge is from Japan. Doge, let me ask you something. The fact that Sony is paying for these games to not go on to Xbox, would you say that matters to you? Does that affect you from buying an Xbox? I would like to know, especially if you're from Japan. Konnichiwa. Domo arigato.
I don't think there's anything wrong with buying exclusives.
It all depends on the situation.
Yeah. When Sony does it, it's bad. When Microsoft does it, it's good. That's your situation.
No.
When Nintendo does it, it's good. When Sony does it, it's bad.
That's not true.
That's your situation.
I'm about to rip Nintendo a new one later in the show. What are you talking about?
Let's move on.
Okay. God, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous sometimes.
See, it sucks because they have no Xbox.
Exactly.
That's the issue here. They're not letting Xbox blossom. The console that you can play those Xbox games on, it's not showing up in Japan. That's what this whole issue is.
Well, he actually said he's not from Japan. He meant the dog.
The dog, but still.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna move on before Devroro just continues to just.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can go for a while on this one.
Is that Sony check in the mail?
Can
you share something? I'm not paid by any company.
Oh, did you sound like a cult, a fanboy Microsoft cult? Because
not at all.
Everything that Sony does is bad in your book. Everything.
No, that's not true at all.
And when Microsoft does the same thing or Nintendo does the same thing, you're like, no, but you see,
that's not true at all.
But you see, the situation is.
Situation matters. It does. It's just straight up does.
Okay. Yeah, the situation is when it's not Sony.
Dude, the problem with you is everything's black and white for you. There are shades. There are shades.
I'm literally saying that it depends. I'm saying it's good. Microsoft, it's just business. It's just business.
It's just business.
Yeah, that's all it is.
As he's cashing at Sony.
I can't get mad at you if you had a restaurant and you're buying all the best tomatoes. You get to the farm early enough.
It's not about buying the best tomatoes. It's about oh man, the other restaurant.
So that restaurant can get.
No, wow. Oh, the other restaurant went outside to go buy their tomatoes. They went to their truck and all their tires were done.
That's not show.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, I guess we can't get the best tomatoes because we can't go over there to get.
That's the issue because they're not letting Xboxes blossom in Japan. That's the issue.
Right, because they're paying for exclusive deals.
So it's different between the content and the system.
Crazy.
How do you play PlayStation games? You have a PlayStation, right?
How do
you play Xbox games? You have an Xbox, right?
Yeah, I have all three.
So you're able to grab from all three sides.
Yeah, because I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed in my life. At number 11, beloved TM.
This guy.
Oh my God, Forrest should have been here for this. He's in Japan right now. Speaking of Japan, I should call him right now and be like, hey. for like I'm on the seat here in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh man, should have had him call in. Beloved TMNT graphic novel, The Last Ronin, is becoming a video game. This came out of Polygon over the weekend. I guess it was late last week. It wasn't the weekend yet. A new, very different style of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game is currently in development, an adaptation of The Last Ronin, the 2020 graphic novel that told a grim, futuristic story about the Turtles. Like the comic, The Last Ronin video game adaptation will be a darker, more mature take on the typically colorful Ninja Turtles, according to Doug Rosen, Senior Vice President for Games and Emerging Media at Paramount Global, the rights holders for the TMNT. In an interview with Polygon last week, Rosen likened the upcoming third-person action role-playing game to Sony's recent God of War titles and said it will be authentic to the story of The Last Ronin arc, which is set in a future where only one of the turtles have survived. I've never read this story, but reading this article sounds so fucking cool.
It does sound really cool.
As someone who's like, I've always liked the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I've always kind of like swayed in and out of interest.
Yeah. This sounds really gritty and like.
It just sounds so good.
Yeah.
So it's so good, but at the same time breaks your heart because 3 of your turtles have to die for this story to take place.
Yeah, I don't want any spoilers of the story itself, but producer Jeff, are you aware of this story?
Oh, absolutely.
Is it very good?
It's so good. The only thing I'll say, I won't spoil anything. He carries everybody's weapons. It's incredible.
That's cool.
That's really
cool. It gives me chills just thinking about it, dude.
I don't even want to know which one survives. It's probably Raphael. Actually, no. Oh, maybe. I can see Raphael.
Him or Leonardo.
I can see Raphael really carrying that weight. Like he seems like that. I don't want you to answer that, Jeff, but I think it would be Raphael. Could be wrong. But anyways, yeah, this sounds awesome. This news kind of came out late last week, and let's go. That's gonna be really good. I'm gonna get on this one. This is gonna be a purchase. And they're like, and of course they're like, oh yeah, it's gonna play like the new God of War games, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, those games are really good.
All right. Well, real quick, don't finish reading that story you have there because it tells you who the turtle is.
Yeah, no, I did stop a little. I didn't see anything, but I wasn't gonna go much further. But yeah, it's gonna be cool. Number 12 on the news headlines. Assassin's Creed Mirage is going to be delayed to 2024, according to a data miner. On Twitter, this data miner has stepped out with the claim that Assassin's Creed Mirage and The Crew Project Orlando are likely to be delayed and pushed back to 2024. There was also a mention in the tweet that Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is expected to return to form for the franchise, runs on an old Assassin's Creed engine. Insider Gaming sources understand that Mirage gameplay will be revealed at this year's E3, but it's not known to what depth it will be revealed, especially if the alleged delay is a lengthy one. I'm upset about this. I'm upset about this news in general. I think this is just the ongoing, like, man, this is just not a good year for Ubisoft.
Yeah.
It's not.
I do think they're going to do the game justice. It does, when it's a little I don't know, I feel like hearing the word old and old engine a little misleading because I'm kind of wondering if that just means.
To me, I read that as they're going to use an engine from an old Assassin's Creed game that genre. So Syndicate. I think that means they're going to run off the Syndicate engine.
That's what it does sound like. I don't know. I do think they're going to do this game justice. I can't see them.
I hope so.
Screwing this game up.
I hope so.
Yeah. I'm willing to wait. Yeah. I want to see gameplay at least.
I'm always okay with the delay, but again, for me, this just continues to paint a picture of like this is a bad year for Ubisoft. Between all the stuff we've been talking about this year and just all the workplace stuff and just the bad stuff going on and now this, it's just not a good look. No. Speaking of Ubisoft having a bad year, number 13 on the headlines, Ubisoft is no longer attending E3, but they will still host their own event in June. Last month, the Assassin's Creed publisher became the first major company to publicly commit to attending the revamped E3, which is due to take place this year in June, as its traditional venue of the Los Angeles Convention Center. However, in a statement issued to VGC, the company has said that it now decided to move in a different direction, and will instead be holding its own Ubisoft Forward event live on June 12th in LA. E3 has fostered unforgettable moments across the industry throughout the years, a spokesperson told VGC. Yeah. While we initially intended to have an official E3 presence, we've made the subsequent decision to move in a different direction, and we'll be holding a Ubisoft Forward live event on June 12th in LA. We look forward to sharing more details with our players very soon. They're still going to do a show that week. I mean, obviously, I don't think we're going to notice a change. They're still going to do their thing on that weekend. You know, this lines up with June 11th is Microsoft, June 12th is Ubisoft. So
everything feels like they cut out the middleman. They're just doing it, everything they would be doing anyway. Now they're just doing it on their own time with their own rules, and they're not spending a bunch of money to make a really good presentation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that they're not spending a lot of money; it's that they're doing it their own way.
Yeah,
it's not under the E3 banner, which we all know and love.
I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, we talk about it, and I know we've disagreed on it. I think E3 is integral to the video game news cycle. I do think that it should. I think it still should be.
I don't know about that. That's a different conversation. But it really was.
I still think the games industry coming together for 1 week of, hey, here we go. This is like all the big news.
But that's almost pushing towards the Game Awards. The Game Awards is definitely becoming that week where all of the gaming is celebrated.
See, the problem is though,
it gets better every year. I know you don't like.
It's not that I don't like it's the Summer Games Fest, not the Game Award. It's
I was thinking the Game Awards.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
like the Game Awards.
Okay.
My biggest thing with the Game Awards,
the advertising.
I think the ads for some of the products are a bit much. I think you could cut 20 minutes of ads out of that, and it would be just as good, if not more enjoyable.
They have to get paid for it, though.
I understand that, but I get it, and I understand video game trailers are themselves ads. I get it, but
I was hoping Summer Games Fest wasn't that. It doesn't hit like E3,
and it doesn't.
Yeah, and I was hoping that it would become the new one, but
no,
I don't think. Yeah, it hasn't yet, and I don't think these companies are realizing we don't need a middleman to put out information. If you're excited about Assassin's Creed, you're gonna watch that forward.
Yeah, but I think that there's a special feeling to just the general excitement. So like I always remember like the E3 schedule coming out and like planning the day where it's like, all right, so from 10 to 12 we're gonna watch the Microsoft showcase, and then from like 12 to 2 is EA, and then 2 to 4 is Nintendo. Well, Nintendo always went on Tuesday by themselves. But you get my point. From Sunday to Tuesday.
As long as these companies put out their dates and they're like all in the same area, we're still doing that. Nothing's changing, you know? It's just E3 was guaranteed that. And now it's now it's uncertain when we're going to get news, if we even get news this week. You know, companies can put it out whenever.
I hear you on that. I do, and I understand.
It's just the E3 banner that was all encased. That's what we all miss.
Yeah, and I think again, I just think where Summer Games Fest falls short for me is it just feels so unfocused. Whereas like I like the E3 thing where it's like, okay, first up is Xbox, second up Ubisoft, third up Sony. Like I liked it like when it was kind of categorized. Did I watch all of them? Absolutely. But I at least kind of got like my expectations in check of where I wanted to see, what I wanted to see. We knew for a fact that nothing was going to be competing for time with something else. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where it's like when Jeff Keighley does his summer showcase, he's got 2 hours to work with.
Oh yeah.
Or I mean, he's gone to 3, but people say that's too long for people. So he's like, okay, well, I won't do 3 again.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
It's good at what E3 is going to become, right? As of this point,
but I don't think it needs to be that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
they also don't. We don't need companies don't need them. That's why they're not doing. Why would I pay you money to do the same thing I'm going to do anyway?
So I would argue that it does a better job of generating hype. I think that having that E3 cycle, and this is completely. I'm just looking at it.
All it is, it's like we're having a showcase, and it's at this.
Yeah, but it's all marketing. Here's the thing: I'm going to look at it strictly not as a consumer. I'm going to look at it as how it's beneficial to them. Yes, they're spending money on it, but that E3 hype cycle, there are people like myself who used to, obviously this, now I'm trying to do the budgeting thing,
mm-hmm.
but like I used to when E3 happened, I had a pen and a paper. I could actually probably have it in this notebook. I think some of the early pages are just E3 of that year and a long list of games. And on Wednesday, I would go on Amazon and look up every single game and pre-order them because it doesn't charge you till it ships.
Mm-hmm.
And I would legitimately do that. And I can't be the only person that's like, oh man, all these games were announced at E3. I'm going to go immediately try to go and pre-order them. There's no way I'm the only person in the fucking world that did that. So it's like.
But all E3 was just a hub. That's all it was.
Right. I'm saying that hub brought people in. You would have people that never reported on gaming reporting on E3. You would have USA Today writing about things that happened at E3. Like that just
I guess.
like it just generates the buzz. It was their Super Bowl.
But I get, but I don't think we need that anymore. If Microsoft says I'm putting out a thing, everyone knows. If Nintendo says I'm putting out a press, like Nintendo got away from it first, and no one, you would still hear about Nintendo stuff. If Nintendo said they were saying something, people listened.
I don't know.
So why is it that why does it when E3 says, "Hey, Microsoft's going to say something," like more people are listening? Like Microsoft's going to.
It's just true. It just amplifies it, but it's just factual that it is amplified. Because even if you're not interested in it, you're going to pay attention because it's all E3. Because you want to know everything that's happening at E3. Because
I mean, I feel like that was the case though. I don't think that's the case anymore. That's why things are changing and they're not going back.
I just think there's value in it. That's all I'm saying.
I think there was value. I think the value is gone.
I think there's still value.
We don't need you anymore. We don't need a middleman anymore.
It's ironic that you're taking this pro Sony stance once again. When Sony was the first one. Sony was the first one to back out of E3. Are those some new shoes? Wow, those are nice. Oh, look at you. Why do you cashing these checks, man? Wow, look at that.
Actually, I think Blizzard was the first ones to back out of E3.
Coming from?
Hold on, what did you say, producer Jeff?
I said Blizzard were the first ones to back out of E3, and they created BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like the.
And they gave everyone the idea.
I'm messing with you. It's like, oh, new shoes. Oh, Dev, you just bought a car recently, didn't you? Wow, look at all that money coming in. Making way more money. Did you get a promotion at work or something?
If Sony was paying me, I'd take the money.
I mean, to be fair, if
Business.
Xbox is not paying me, I would probably take the money.
Yeah, it's business. Imagine that's the next episode where we're like,
a PlayStation, if you want, like, look, I've always been very clear. I will speak my mind, but I have a price.
Dev shows up in a Supreme shirt.
It's a high price.
I would just love for like next episode you have like a God of War hat.
Yo, guys, I got my PSVR 2. I sold my Series X. I got the PSVR 2.
PlayStation game.
Yeah. I've moved the entire game room. Oh man, let's move on to number 14 in the news headlines. Left 4 Dead 3 reference found in Counter-Strike 2 code. So players have reportedly found a reference to Left 4 Dead 3 in the source code files, adding to the ever-growing pile of rumors surrounding Valve's non-existent, because they said it's definitely not happening, zombie shooter. So basically, producer Jeff, if you could show everyone the file names. There is a file or a name in the file that says Left 4 Dead 3. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, for that totally non-existent game.
Could Valve be trolling? Absolutely.
Easily.
But I'm going to hope that they're not, because I really want a Left 4 Dead 3.
I almost feel like if there is a Left 4 Dead 3, knowing what Valve is doing, it can be like Half-Life Alyx.
Yeah.
So real quick, if you look at these, the file that they found, so it says version 2, owner triage, severity high, priority none.
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what that means, priority none, but that's funny.
It's like, oh yeah, we have no priority making Left 4 Dead 3. We're not making it, you clowns.
Yeah.
It's right there in our face, and we're like, maybe
they're making it. And then they're saying, guys, we're not.
How many times?
No.
Now, if Sony paid for it to be made, then it'd be okay, because it's not being made. Just saying. Last up on the news headlines, Playground Games co-founder have formed their new AAA studio. Gavin Rayburn, co-founder and former studio head of the Forza Horizon developer Playground Games, has unveiled his new AAA studio, Lighthouse Games, which is based in Leamington Spa, is assembling a veteran team that includes key founding members of Playground Games' original team to build a new best-in-class game that is yet to be announced. I'm delighted that 30 former colleagues and other industry heavyweights have chosen to join me at Lighthouse, Rayburn said. With Horizon, Playground and I created one of the most successful Xbox franchises of all time. We delivered significant commercial success year after year to massive critical acclaim. Following the success from my time at Codemasters leading Dirt, Grid, and F1, that DNA is now at Lighthouse, and with it, we intend to build something truly special, using all our experience to create a new genre-defining franchise. Excuse me. According to the press release, Lighthouse's ambition is to create a studio that embodies what it means to be at the bleeding edge of video game development. a studio that enables developers to create the best work of their career in an environment that feels truly collaborative. Do you think they're making a racing game?
I don't know.
Because this, like, the team seems like a very strongly, like, worked on Forza Horizon. They had worked at Codemasters. Like,
I can't imagine you leave just to go back to making a driving game.
right? Well, they say that a genre-defining game is what they're making.
Yeah. It looks like they're trying to push the boundary, which whatever they're doing, I'm interested in. Like, it just
I am as well. Yeah.
cool. But I don't know.
Well, we'll have to keep an eye on Lighthouse Games. All right. Well, that's it for the news headlines. Let's dive in real quick to the game releases for the week of March 27th. First up, we have Colossal Cave coming out on Xbox Series consoles and Xbox One on March 28th. Crime Boss Rock A City comes out for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC on March 28th. MLB The Show 23 comes out on PS5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Switch on the 28th as well. Very interesting here because I actually had to explain to someone in our Discord, to the coach. MLB The Show is a PlayStation Studios game that comes out on Xbox. And you like that's mostly pressure from the MLB, obviously.
Yeah.
Like they're the one that signs the Game Pass deal because it's coming to Game Pass as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always funny because it's like I had to show him the Xbox version of the box where it says PlayStation Studios on the box. Other things coming out, Sifu, that Sony money has finally ran out. Sifu comes to Xbox Series consoles and Xbox One on March 28th.
Okay.
Terra Nil comes to PC, iOS, and Android on March 28th. The Last of Us Part 1 comes to PC on March 28th as well. Dredge comes to PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on the 30th. The Last Worker, PS5, Xbox Series, PSVR 2, Switch, and PC on the 30th. Producer Jeff, do you think that The Last Worker could be a game about CM Punk? Citizen Sleeper comes out for PS5, PS4 on March 31st. Minius High comes out on the Quest on March 31st. Nothing really super speaking to me this week. I mean, I would probably check out MLB The Show. It's going to be on Game Pass. You know, baseball's starting up this week. Very excited for the Phillies. Reese Hoskins tore his ACL though in spring training. That really sucks. He's their first baseman. That kind of really sucked for him. But yeah, kind of a whatever week. Nothing really going on other than MLB, in my opinion.
I just want to read this one thing about Dredge.
Sure, go ahead.
I had no idea what it was, so I looked it up. There's a few articles, and one of them says it's an indie fishing sim. It's Wind Waker meets Majora's Mask. It's like,
wait, what?
That it is
for Dredge. Wait, what is this?
Indie fishing sim Dredge is Wind Waker meets Majora's Mask. That is a
Dredge.
8 out of 10 on Nintendo Life. Like it's a highly rated game, and for someone to say that about it, I just feel like
you had my intrigue. Now you have my intention.
I need 2 out of your 3 favorite games.
Wait a second, what is going on here? Dredge.
So I think you should look into Dredge. Give it a sniff.
I'm already looking. I've already purchased it. I already beat it. It is. Look at this. I'm actually. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
look into that.
This looks gorgeous too.
Yeah, it is very pretty.
Producer Jeff, give me some B-roll for Dredge real quick.
Already going.
Look at this. It looks really good. I mean, I am intrigued.
The little boat's cute. Do I have the right game?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Well, consider me intrigued. Who's developed this? Black Salt Games, Team 17. Okay, all right. Well,
if you do play, which it sounds like it's on your radar now, let me know because I want to play.
You said Wind Waker and Majora's Mask, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm gonna do some research on this. I don't know if I'm gonna be buying it right away.
Yeah, of course.
But do some research.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's get into the topic of the show. As we open the show, Devroro, the Wii U 3DS eShops have ended. I enjoyed doing the topic last week where we kind of like did more of a face-to-face, so I'm gonna turn here.
Okay.
Hopefully that's okay with producer Jack. So
yeah, it's sad.
It does. It really sucks. Oh, hold on. TJ asked a question, so I want to answer TJ's question first.
Okay.
So TJ says, what does Sony do now that the CMA has more or less confirmed this deal will go through? Do they have to purchase, and if so, who do they purchase and why? I don't know. So I mean, like, I think Sony will spend some money. I could see Sony buying Sega.
Yeah.
I think that's a very believable purchase for them.
They don't need.
You talk about Yakuza. Yakuza alone is probably something that they would want to lock up.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's one of those companies That just feels like same thing with Square Enix. It just feels like it's a very
Sure.
If they bought them, no one would
Right.
it wouldn't come out of left field.
Sure. So okay. So
But I don't think they need to buy anything. They don't have 70 billion to throw around and try to challenge Microsoft.
right. All right. So games were pulled from the digital store, completely shut down.
Yeah.
It really sucks. So in the same week, I thought that there was an interesting story that actually came out about EA. They are delisting Battlefield 1943, Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2. Originally, they speculated that Mirror's Edge was being delisted. That ended up not being the case. In general, not good news. Not good news at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to start with an argument for physical media and why it's important.
Mm-hmm. I think you think that I'm against this, and I think by the end of this, we're going to be more on the same side than you think.
So physical media, you say, is going away, and I don't disagree with that. I do think that it's a legitimate issue that could happen.
And it's not that I don't think it should. It's not that I think it should. I'm just pointing out that it is.
Right. So I wanted to kind of touch on why I think owning physical games is better than owning digital games. Number one, you're actually owning something.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy a digital game, you are not actually owning anything. You're not purchasing anything. You are literally renting the license to access software. When you're buying a physical game, yes, that still is the case, but it isn't that simple. It is you own that physical thing.
The only issue with that is it is still today with disc.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of different than with cartridges, where all the information is on the cartridge. You can play it anywhere. With disc, it's almost all the same at this point.
Sure.
And you just have this piece of plastic in the box that you can keep. And it sucks, but that's where the whole industry is at a whole.
Right. Okay. So getting value, I think, out of a purchase is also an important thing with physical games.
Absolutely.
I think you get that in physical games. I could pick a game.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Right.
Having maps and posters and all that stuff in the box that you get, like that is.
Well, so I'm meaning from a monetary point. That's also very true.
Okay.
Getting value out of like your purchase in terms like
sell future value kind of.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes. But so, for example, God forbid, I needed to like pay my mortgage or something, and I was met with like an awful unemployed, can't get a job, can't find work, need money. If it really came down to paying my bills, or being homeless, I could turn and probably unload 1,000 of this and still have 5 bookcases.
Yeah.
I could. With digital, you don't really have that opportunity, and I understand that we've talked about in the past how I don't think reselling digital goods is a good idea. I still don't. I don't see it. I don't see how you could possibly figure
put a limit on digital goods where there's only 500,000.
Exactly, an infinite number. How can you
I get that.
control that? And I think that that's just one perk of physical gaming is you're making an investment. Like to sound funny, and I sound cocky saying this, but I don't mean it in a cocky way. Like I have like net worth.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like value. I have money value.
Yeah.
Like obviously other than houses.
Yeah.
Like this room gives like my being monetary value.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they say like this person has this much money, they're valued at.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that matters, and I think that investing your money should pay dividends in that way, and I think that that's important. My next point. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I do think that that's not a. I don't know. It almost feels like in gaming, at least, that's not like. For most people, they want to buy the game, play the game, experience the game, and then they move on to what's next.
So real quick, we're going to stop. TJ says, why do you think reselling digital goods is bad? The reason that I think we're in agreement on this. I think the reason that reselling digital goods is bad is because it's not. So there is a set amount of copies of Super Mario Party in the world. And that amount of copies that is available dictates its market price as time goes on, especially. Mm-hmm. Once, like, this isn't a good example. I should have picked the GameCube game. But my point is that
there is a scarcity. There is a set number. Of
supply and demand.
Yeah.
There's a supply in the world, and there's a demand that will be met or not be met.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that will dictate the pricing. How do you take a digital good which has an unlimited amount, an unlimited quantity, and I'm not even talking about NFTs or the blockchain, so producer Jeff can not.
No, but I get what you're saying.
But I'm talking about
make that
a game.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't know. Let's pick another one. Starlink.
Imagine if your favorite musical artist uploaded a song to YouTube and only the first 10,000 people can hear it, and then after that you have to like pay someone else
to use their song. Yeah, again, it's just like we're not talking about individual blockchain stuff even at this point. We're talking about a game, any game.
But
I don't
hold
think
on here.
Digital good.
There's not an infinite amount of these. Even though it's a digital asset, they only have as many as people purchased. Once they get rid of the game, that's only as many as there's going to be.
Yeah, but who are?
I guess that's
So here's my follow up. How do you figure out the value of that digital good if, like, again, the only thing, like, let me rephrase that.
Supply and demand.
I get the value. I get the value part. Okay, let's say they have a buying window. A bunch of people buy it, and then like after this date, it's not available anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they sold, and maybe you can buy it from somewhere else. The value in that becomes, well, I'm willing to pay that. I'm willing to pay $20 for what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's like, I'm willing to pay 25, and now there's a middle ground. You know that the high end is 25, the low end is 20, so that's what you resell, whatever that asset is. We as a people dictate the price of whatever that digital content is.
Right, but I'm saying, like, how do you really put a value? Like,
that's a market.
You already answered that question with supply and demand.
Right, but I'm saying, like,
I get what you're saying.
Here's the thing with a video game, with a physical video game, eventually they're going to stop printing that physical video game. Again, I shouldn't have grabbed the Switch game. I'm redoing it.
Either way, you got to understand this. Somebody can't just copy their game and make a new one. That's illegal.
I legitimately at random grabbed the Switch game and it was Super Mario Party, and then grabbed a random GameCube game without looking and it was Mario Party 5. All of these games are Mario Party.
But like Rome, you realize you can't just copy a game and make a new copy without the company's written permission, and they actually have to do it. Like you have to, there's things that stop you from doing that.
And I think I get what Jerome is saying, where this is real, this is physical, whereas a digital game is digital. It's not real, so you're almost.
But here's my other point. My other point to kind of better explain it is, so yes, I understand that in terms of digital keys, there is not an infinite number available. But there is, because every time someone buys it, it generates a new key. Therefore, like, there were only so many copies of this made. You can't just be like, man, I really wish that they would make another copy of Mario Party 5 for me. No, it doesn't work that way.
I would argue that more copies of that game exist in a physical aspect than of new games that are only digital.
I don't know whether I would agree with that or not.
I bet you can find copies of those games in GameStop right now for $2.
Mario Party 5? No.
Do you see what I'm saying, though? There's copies of that game that may even be in a landfill somewhere. Like, these digital games, only the number that were purchased exist. Do you think every copy of that game that's ever been on the shelves was purchased?
For Mario Party 5? I mean, at this point, yes. I do think at this point, every copy that's ever been... There is no such thing as a new, unopened... Like, well...
You don't think it... You don't think it reached...
No,
you don't think it reached even a little bit to the Forsaken realm of throwing the last couple away?
No, I think that any copy of Mario Party 5 that's out there has been acquired by somebody. Whether it's being sold at another game store, it was acquired by that game store. I don't think there is anywhere where you can walk in and buy an unsealed, never changed hands copy of Mario Party 5.
So Jeff, on eBay, just the case itself for Mario Party 5 is $30.
Yeah.
The game included is $78.
Yep. Fucking don't tell me about the GameCube gaming market. It is wild.
But this pricing can still happen in a digital sense.
I don't understand. I don't see the value of how it could do that.
If you buy that game into that set window, you own it. There isn't a limited copy as long as you buy it between like point A and point B. You can buy as many as you want. After that, if you now own that. For example, if you had bought games on your Nintendo Switch, on your DS. At this point, now that the store is closed, those games are valuable now. If you could sell your 3DS and make money, if you had downloaded the game, hey, my digital games exist on this 3DS. Do you want to buy it? Like you still own it. So because like price goes up now. You know what I mean?
So TJ makes a good point in the chat, and this is where I think the disconnect is with us in this discussion, all three of us.
Yeah.
So TJ says, if I choose to sell my Fire Emblem for $20 as opposed to the Nintendo's 30 for the digital version, that right should be there. This doesn't benefit the publisher, but this isn't about the publisher.
Yeah.
I agree. Here's my point though. Why would Nintendo ever implement a system that would stop them from making a sale of Fire Emblem? Give me one reason why Nintendo would do that. Not just Nintendo. Why Microsoft? Why PlayStation? Why any company would legitimately do that?
That is a valid.
That's a great point.
I'm thinking it. I'm thinking in the world that is not a possibility. It is not a possibility for Nintendo to offer a buyback system for digital goods.
So think about it this way. Does Ford have a say in you reselling your car to somebody? That they shouldn't have a say. Once I purchased that, they shouldn't have a say.
A digital marketplace run by Nintendo. All of these games are accessed on a Nintendo console. It's Nintendo's console. That would be like you're saying that you can't rebuy a Ford. That would be like if you could only drive the Ford on the Ford racetrack and you couldn't leave the racetrack. Like, yeah, Jeff, they would have.
I see what you're saying there.
Okay, so
that's my point.
My question to you is, what if it's costing them too much money to have the store where everything's available if no one's buying that stuff? Everyone's worried about it going away, but no one's buying it. No one's buying it. No one is putting money in it anymore. No one is. We just want it to exist. That's all we want. We want them to pay for this to exist.
So I think game preservation is very important, and we're going to get into that. I think that's a great question to ask, and like, yeah, we can debate that answer, but I think at the end of the day, game preservation is important. I think even if it's the worst game of all time, I think E.T. for the Atari, or Superman 64, absolutely have the right to be preserved. You know, Atari was like burying them in the desert. That was a terrible idea from Atari. That game should absolutely exist.
So how about this? How about we meet in the middle, and while it's on sale on the Nintendo site, you can't sell it. But once they say, okay, we're no longer supporting this game, it's done. It's no longer even on the site for purchase. Then we should have the right to sell it. You know, maybe something like that.
Again, I'm not arguing whether you should be able to or not. In a perfect world, sure, I guess it would be cool to be like, I don't want this digital game anymore. I'm going to sell my key to someone else.
So down all the time, you know.
Sure. And again, my argument is not stemming from whether you should be able to. I'm not saying whether you should be able to or not. I'm saying we need to be realistic here, and there is no way that these companies are going to do that. So I'm going to operate off of that assumption that there's no way that's
happening. A great point.
But also, why preserve something if no one's gonna buy it? You know what I mean? Why keep leftovers in the fridge if no one's gonna eat it? You throw those leftovers away.
Yeah.
It's kind of it sucks for us because we just want it to exist in the world, and no one's buying it and they're paying money to keep it open, and it sucks.
I think that
like there is.
I get what you're saying.
In the world, there still is a finite amount of data. You know, like.
Sure. I just think that you should still try to preserve games as much as possible.
I agree with that. It should be a museum kind of type of thing.
Well, there is.
Like, but I get what you're saying. Like,
video games. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is last. Like, all those games are available on the DS, right?
Well, the 3DS and the Wii.
The 3DS
and the Wii U, yeah.
It would be really cool if, with enough memory, they can sell something that's like, hey, you can play every game, an emulator, in so to speak. Here's our library. Every game is on here because it's just data. Maybe you have like 5-6 cartridges that are just huge memory cards. But that's what emulators are.
Sure.
Like I do think it should be. I do think if those games are going to go away, they should be somewhere. I agree with preservation for history's sake.
Yeah, I mean I agree too.
It's like after a war, you just burn instead of
burn all the books. Yeah, let's burn all the books.
Yeah,
like
we kind of closed it everywhere. We don't know. We burnt it all. Like
exactly.
We don't want to go in history museums. It's beautiful.
You walk into a history museum. You walk into a museum, like the museum might have Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, but like, and like that shit's terrible. What's written in the book is fucking disgusting. Exactly. You need to preserve the history for better or for worse. If you just wash away all the bad parts of history, you're not going to learn anything. Like you're not. Like we need to look at the history of the Wii U and the 3DS and look at that console as a whole and see what that console's life cycle. And I get
more last thing that TJ said, where these companies should enable an online store where their games are okay. We're not selling the games anymore, but these people have them, and
I think it would be great. Yeah. Again, I don't want to be that guy. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. It's like we need to look at this in a realistic sense, and that's how I'm going to look at this.
Yeah, you weren't going to play those games if you had bought them. You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't have. But like.
And it's just nice to. I get it. It's nice to have and like.
I just think preservation's important, and there's some big examples. Again, we're going to get to it because I do have some stuff
Okay,
on the
alright.
preservation. We're still talking about kind of physical
Yeah.
games in general, and owning them and why it's nice. Apart from getting value out of a purchase, you can sell it, you can lend it, you can trade it, you can gift it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that matters. It's like, again, it's just adding value to what you're paying for in physical ownership, and I think that's important. I think if cared for, physical media can and will last essentially forever. Digital will not. I think that we're seeing it today. Here's a funny thing, right? So obviously, again, the Wii U eShop is no more. R.I.P. I could pick Zombie U, which is right. No, it's on the next one. Whoops. So I bought Zombie U, launch day, Wii U. This is the first game I ever bought for the Wii U, right? I could pop this into my Wii U right now and play it.
So here's the.
If I gave somebody a Wii U who does not own this game, it's like, oh, go play Zombie U. They couldn't do it.
So here's.
They would have to go to the secondary market to buy a physical copy.
I know, but here's the difference is you can't go into a store and find Zombie U.
I bet you could, but even then, let me phrase that.
It's not that the game doesn't exist; it's that you can't buy it anymore.
But you have places you can go to buy it. You can go on eBay right now and look up Zombie U.
Yeah, no, that's what.
Just because you can't walk into a store doesn't mean it's not available.
I agree. That's what TJ is saying. There should be a place where it can be resold.
Sure, but again, you're talking about digital games, and that's just not feasible. It's just not feasible because why would Nintendo do that? Why would Nintendo do that?
No, they won't.
We're talking about digital right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would they do that?
No one's buying it in the first place. Why would they open up a market for people to resell? I get that 100%.
Yeah, but that's why I'm going to look at it.
The game still exists out there. If someone was like if someone was born and they read about Zombie U on YouTube and they're like, I need to play this game.
Sure, they buy the physical copy.
But even if the physical copy they can't find it, you can find it digitally. It's just
you would have to buy a whole Wii U that has it on there.
Yeah.
I guess so, but that's just
it's the store is gone, but the content itself is not. It's still there. Yes, you have it, Zombie U, and you can pick it up right now. But someone with their Wii U can show the same thing, and it's kind of the same thing.
I guess so. I don't see it that way.
It's way more convenient.
Yeah, sure. Isn't that ironic? Physical media becoming more convenient than digital. That's the one thing I'll give digital media. It's nice is that the convenience of it. That's the only pro I give it personally.
But it has convenience digitally too. Someone can have a laptop full of Steam games. Whereas if they want to pack up and go, they just bring their laptop. You can't just pack up and go, and just take all your games.
I'm sure the wife would appreciate that. I can't just pack everything up and go.
Yeah. No, you would need 2 suitcases just to do this. So like it's
2. Jesus.
just games itself, 2 or 3. But you know what I mean? Like it's just both sides have convenience.
Yeah. No, I get it. I do. So last thing, which I guess kind of ties in also, availability. And Zombie U I was actually going to use Zombie U for this one. Like, to your point, you can go buy a Wii U that has Zombie U loaded onto it. Yeah, you could.
Mm-hmm. And you can still buy the physical game somewhere.
I think the availability in the long term, GameCube games. Can't buy a GameCube game anywhere else.
Yeah.
Can you put Mario Party 5 back in between 4 and 7 because I don't own 6 yet?
Why?
Have you seen the prices of GameCube games? Look at Mario Party 6 while I'm talking. Please tell me how much Mario Party 6 is going for on eBay right now.
It's one of the best ones, so.
Well, for me. I can miss this one. Let's move on to the next half of this, or I guess the third, because I do also have an ending.
Mario Party 6 is a little bit more expensive. It's $81.
It's about what it was when I looked at it last time. Plus, I'm also cutting back on my retro game buying, obviously. All right, so here's a Nintendo fact for you. As of right now, because now the eShop is closed, there is no official way to play, specifically today, Generation 1 or 2 of Pokemon. There is no official way to play Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Silver, Pokemon Gold, and Pokemon Crystal. There is no official way. There is no official way to buy these games. So here's the thing: we're talking there are you were making the argument like, oh well, the Wii U and 3DS eShop, not every game on there people are ever going to play again. I'm sure there was some garbage on there no one's going to play. Sure, absolutely. You can't say that about Pokemon. Sure,
there's definitely some good ones too, but if you just find the game, you can still play it.
Yeah, but again, like at that point, you're talking about the secondary resale market, and while I do find value in that, I'm talking about like you said, like person wakes up one day and they're like video games. I need to find out what they're about, and you look up Zombie U and you're like, I gotta play it. You look up Pokemon. Pokemon's a huge deal.
Yeah. So the thing is about great games like that is they're usually in emulators. I could play all those. Oh, you're saying official. You're saying
official. Here's the thing.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Are illegal.
You're right.
It is illegal. Nintendo will legitimately send a list to your house.
Definitely shouldn't. You shouldn't.
I mean, I don't. I own every copy of. I own every.
We're not condoning that on this podcast.
Well, to be fair, so legally, if you own the game, so this is.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
If you own a copy of the game, you can legally emulate. That is legal. So legally, I could grab my Pokemon Red copy here and download a Pokemon on an emulator and play it. Legally. If you don't own the game, you can't legally do it.
Yeah.
Emulation is legal, but unauthorized emulation is illegal.
But there are ways just to play the game, like those games.
But you're talking about dropping at that point hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's like if you're in the Nintendo ecosystem, you should be able to just play Pokemon Gold, or Silver. There's no
computer. No, it's not hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Again, you have to own a copy of the game.
Yeah.
At that point, if you own a copy of the game, you're just gonna buy a Game Boy or a GBA player.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you're already buying the game, which the games are pricey in and of.
I get what you're saying.
I think the games are more expensive than the console. You can look it up on eBay if you want. I would argue that Pokemon Silver is probably more expensive than a Game Boy Color.
But doesn't it happen with all games? Like, all games eventually stop selling on shelves, and.
But again, they get delisted, and like, I get your point, but so we're not talking about physical media anymore. I'm talking about why, like, preservation's important, and like, just not being able to get these Pokemon games anywhere. Another one, and this one's actually kind of a bigger deal because of how rare it is. But so Fire Emblem Fates. So I think we talked about this. Fire Emblem Fates is a 3DS game. It was Fire Emblem Birthright and I didn't play them split up, so I don't know what they're all called. But Fire Emblem Fates, they sold it as 3 separate games. And the real way to play that game is to play it where you play all 3 paths. It's Birthright, Conquest, and Revelations. I just remembered it. But so Fire Emblem Fates, they sold as a special edition where it was a cartridge, and I have that cartridge, where it's all 3 games on one. And it's not really 3 different games, it's a choose your path after the 6th level, or 6th story mission. And that's really the way to play the game, is to go and play each branch. With the closure of the 3DS eShop, that was available on the eShop. And now the real way to play that game, like, it was already an extremely limited special collector's edition release. Now you can't even like Devroro, could you look up Fire Emblem Fates for me and just see how much like just the cartridges?
Yeah, while I'm the one that go to the chat.
Sure.
You said Fire Emblem Fates?
Fates for the 3DS.
Okay.
It might have like all the other stuff that came with it, like the pouch and stuff. I just want to know about the cartridge itself, if you can.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on in chat. TJ says, the law, at least in Europe, says you're able to resell digital games. The next step is forcing these companies to set up a marketplace. Purple says, but they remastered it on Switch. I never played Blue and bought it on my Switch. So you're talking about Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. And like, yes, it is a remake of Pokemon Gen 1. And I like those games. I'm not arguing that those games are bad. I don't think Devroro liked Let's Go. Or was it Forrest that didn't like Let's Go? Somebody didn't like Let's Go. I like Let's Go. I think it's fun. But it's not the same game. It's not. It's not. Like, it has a different mechanic that isn't like regular Pokemon. You have to throw the ball to catch things. It's just not the same. And then even further, Gold and Silver, there is no way to buy Gold and Silver. You bought Blue on the Switch. You didn't buy Blue on the Switch. It's not available. I promise you. Producer Jeff, you need to figure this out, Producer Jeff, because Pokemon Blue is definitely not available on the Switch. I would know. Trust me. I promise.
That'd be a big surprise.
I would be like, there's no way on the Switch. Pokemon Blue.
Fire Emblem's Fates Conquest or Birthright.
I'm not trying to call Purple a liar, but I just know it doesn't exist. What did you say?
There's Conquest and Birthright, but both of those are the same price at $43, $44.
They're separate cartridges, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm looking for Fire Emblem Fates. Like, it's its own cartridge. I can show you what it looks like. I love reaching into the game room for this. Here it is.
There's two different types of Fates.
This is what I'm looking for.
Oh, Birthright, yeah.
No. So you see how it's Birthright and then Conquest.
Oh, okay.
And see how it says on the spine, Fire Emblem Fates, and then inside, Fire Emblem Fates. There you go. See, look,
That one is $75.
Okay, that's actually not as bad as I was expecting. It'll probably go up in the coming days now that the 3DS eShop's closed.
Yeah, for sure.
But like that's not available. Like that was a very rare limited release. The game, I knew the guy working at GameStop when that came out, and that's just the cartridge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They are not available. It was on 3DS, I think, way back when, but I don't know if it's still there anymore.
Oh, well, that's okay, but that's my point. So okay, so she bought it on the 3DS. That's what we're talking about. It's not available anymore. Okay, yeah, because it wasn't on the Switch. It was on the 3DS. That's what we're talking about. It's great. Yeah, those games are not available anymore. I mean, like you can play it still if you bought it, but if you didn't buy it, which I actually like, if your 3DS breaks, which I actually had an issue like this once where I had to rebuy all those games because the screen on my 3DS broke.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recover my 3DS account because I had to go on the 3DS to transfer it, but the screen was broken.
Yeah.
So it was this whole thing where I just ended up being like, well, I'll just eat the loss and just buy some of those because I didn't buy a lot of digital games anyway. It was really just like $25 for the Pokemon game. It's okay, Purple. It's all right. But so I think that stuff matters. The GameCube library. Why is the GameCube library not available? Like this is a 3DS eShop thing, but it's like I think something that I just keep coming back to is like, man, Nintendo's done such a shitty job with preservation.
Yeah.
It is borderline insulting. We talked about this last week. I think Nintendo has done an absolute terrible job.
It hurts the most for Nintendo because they have the most memorable.
Exactly. They out of all of them, they should be the one that is nailing this.
Yeah, they have the most memorable.
They're just not.
Yeah, their library is very iconic and very.
The Virtual Console was really good. But what they had going with the Wii and then even the Wii U and the 3DS, it had a lot of the bases covered outside of GameCube games. Again, I'm still really mad that I can't play Paper Mario 1000 Year Door on my Switch.
It is also.
I digress.
It is, like now that we're saying this, like the company that is doing the best job of it has the least amount of memorable things to back. Like,
and we're going to talk about that because that is later in the script.
Yeah, like they do. Microsoft's doing a great job with preservation, whereas and they have the least amount of like most memorable characters of growing up. Like
yeah.
We'll
talk about it. We're gonna get there. We're almost done. I promise. Some other notable stuff I wrote down about delisted games and this type of thing happening. Remember PT?
Oh yeah.
That was a big story. That was Kojima. He was making a Silent Hills game. He dropped PT as a demo, and when he left Konami, they took it off the storefront.
Yeah.
And that was a legitimate. That was an experience. Like that. Even though, especially
look up PS4s that have PT on it on eBay and see what the price is.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know that's expensive.
Yeah, like that's another thing where people were like enthralled by that experience, especially because that game never came out, that Silent Hill game. So that PT demo was a big deal. Other little interesting things. I mean, like, and I knew this from a few years ago. It's not exactly the same as a game getting delisted, and maybe it should have been more so in the physical games discussion. But Grand Theft Auto 4, which is a great game, it had its music completely overhauled due to music licensing expired, and it's just not the same soundtrack, which really sucks.
So it's around $700, almost $800.
$800 for a
PS4 that has PT installed on it.
Yeah, look at that. That's insane. All because they delisted this digital good. Someone flipped the switch, and it's gone. That's insane. So yeah, I think that.
I get, but it happens with physical too,
But not really. Like, yes, they stopped printing copies. But
it is really like you remember in 2020, the games prices just shot up.
Sure, the market
it was all physical.
Sure, the market price went up, but those games didn't become more scarce. The prices went up on. The demand went up, but the supply stayed the same. No, it's not about scarcity.
Yeah, but that's what.
No, in 2020, people were locked in their homes and they wanted something to do, and they went and bought video games. That's what happened.
If there were more copies of those games out, it wouldn't be as much money. You know what I mean?
It's not about the supply.
It is about the supply. No, that's what dictates it. That's what. No one's out there trying to play.
Okay, you're right. I'll give you that. Yeah, that's correct. You are correct on that. But again,
it is the same thing. It's just. Digital does make less sense. I get why.
Yeah. I was actually doing some research for the show tonight. I found a website. It's called delistedgames.com, and they have a database of 1,769 games that have been delisted and are no longer playable anywhere. I didn't go through the list, but I just thought that was kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of them.
Yeah. So obviously, I think preservation is important. These games pulled from digital stores that don't have physical copies are lost to time. I didn't watch the interview, but their SteamWorld Dig, I think the first one is on the Wii U eShop exclusively, and he's like, yeah, it sucks. That was the game that really took my career off. Now it's gone. That sucks. That's just not good. And yeah, to what we were saying earlier, I think Nintendo and Sony have done overall a really terrible job at game preservation.
Yeah.
They've done an awful job.
When they should be doing the best job at
They
it.
should.
Yeah,
It should be Nintendo and then Sony and then Xbox, but it's the exact opposite. It's Xbox and then PlayStation, Nintendo.
Yeah.
PlayStation didn't want to do backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
The only reason they have it on the PS5 is because Xbox made such a big deal about doing it. Like, look, man, Xbox. I talk about it a lot. I think Xbox, it caters to the philosophies that I believe in gaming, and that's why I'm so drawn to them. Like, again, I made it very clear. I am a video game fanboy. I love my Nintendo Switch. I love my PS5. I love my Xbox Series X. For me, it's not about picking one because I want all three.
The things you believe in gaming.
Xbox does. Xbox does. 100%. Everything I believe in choices. I believe in different levels of entry. I believe in value for your games. I believe in supporting physical. I believe in backwards compatibility. I believe in generational libraries being lumped together. That's why the way I have my game room organized is all the Nintendo consoles are back to back to back, and all the Xbox consoles are together. All the PlayStation consoles are together. Like, I that matters to me. I think Xbox does a great job with that. I think Xbox has emerged as an industry leader in games preservation. Going as far as Phil Spencer last year, commenting on the importance of game preservation and saying, yeah, this stuff's really important to us. We really care about this. I couldn't pull that quote, but I remember that interview happening. This past week, director of ID at Xbox, which is the independent developer program at Xbox, Chris Charla, he discussed the 10-year anniversary of ID at Xbox. And he said, ironically, we've even enabled retail disc publishing for developers in ID at Xbox, Xbox's digital self-publishing program. This retail program is still in its pilot phase with a limited number of partners, but developers can make physical versions of their games with only a low minimum order quantity of physical units from Xbox. We look forward to rolling this out to more broad participation in the near future. Devs, please watch our April newsletter for more info here. This is insane that in 2023, Xbox is making it more available to put out physical media. Like, that's insane to me that a company is doing that.
Yeah.
Because with Xbox and other companies weren't as bad, but Xbox in the past was like, the reason that like limited run games didn't print a lot on Xbox was because Xbox had a minimum number that you had to print to go be on Xbox physically. And now here they are saying like, well, we want to make sure like these developers can put out physical games so they can have these to preserve. So we're lowering that barrier and like maybe even getting rid of that barrier to an extent. I mean, obviously you have to print a good amount, you can't print like 5 copies of a game on Xbox, but I don't know. I thought that this was really awesome news. And it's funny to me that this came out in the same week that all this is going down. Also a quick shout out to something that's really cool. The Completionist on YouTube. He spent $22,000 and he bought every single Wii U and 3DS game ahead of this shutdown.
A lot of money.
As reported by VGC, the Completionist uploaded a video, which I haven't watched yet. It's on my watch later list. Sharing the endeavor, which took 328 days to complete, including DSiWare, the Virtual Console, and DLC. The project saw 866 Wii U and 1,547 3DS games purchased in total. The completed project, totaling a Wii U with 3 external hard drives and a 3DS with 4 micro SD cards, will be donated to the Video Game History Foundation to preserve the digital offerings that will otherwise cease to exist when the store is shut down today on March 27th.
That's cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's really cool.
I love Gerard. He's like, again, I'm a completionist, so I always have loved his work and the stuff he does because I look at games the same way he looks at games. But this was such a cool thing for him to do.
Yeah.
And it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because his fans were mad because when he did this, obviously it became a headline, and people were like, fan buys, and they're like, "Oh, he's not a fan. He's Gerard the completionist," which like he is a YouTube celebrity. He is a celebrity technically, but his fans were very upset, and he was like, "Guys, it's fine. I am a fan. That's why I did this. I didn't do this for the clicks. I did it because I'm a fan." Yeah. But so yeah, I shout out to Gerard doing that. Shout out to Xbox for continuing to care about preservation. I just want to see Nintendo do better.
Yeah, and to be fair, to be fair for all three companies,
sure,
Xbox almost took a hard right turn in the Xbox One phase.
Sure, yeah.
And they completely changed it around in their own.
Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
100% Phil Spencer.
Yeah, who knows? There is hope for. I mean, Nintendo just released they're putting out games on their
NSO.
The NSO.
The Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, it's happening very, very, very slowly, and like we're putting a lot of pressure on those companies. I think Nintendo just makes them.
I think that my problem with Nintendo's eShop, as we wind down here on the Gamer Podcast, I think my biggest problem with Nintendo and their offering is you had the Wii Virtual Console and the Wii U Virtual Console. Yeah. You had like all of these games available and ported. The one game a month thing, like it's ridiculous. Yeah. Like I'm sorry, I understand. Like maybe you want to spread out your subscriptions and stuff like that. I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, like
they need one market.
The NSO again. I think the NSO is a great system. I think that if you upload all of your games, I think the way you have the NSO, and I think Nintendo's expansion pack online, the whole NSO thing, I think that it's definitely worth the $60 a year, especially with that content there. That legacy content is so important. But the fact of the matter remains that sitting here on March 27th, 2023, when the NSO has been out for a long time, and like not all of your first party games they're not available, like that's insane to me. Like it's completely wild to me that there is no GameCube support on the NSO, that there is no and again the Switch can handle it. The Switch can handle any Nintendo console except for the DS, obviously. But they could even have the Wii. Like, why is Mario Galaxy not available on NSO? Why are these games not available? And I understand maybe they want to sell remasters. I can understand that. Okay, but at the end of the day, you have a responsibility as the leader, like you said, out of anyone, they should be the ones leading this charge. You have a responsibility as Nintendo to your customers, to your fans, to make sure you're preserving your own history. And I understand you want to sell remasters and stuff, and you know what? You could still do that and add new little things to the game, like Wind Waker HD added the fast sale and up-res graphics. I'm not asking for them to up-res the graphics on these NSO games. Just asking them to be available.
That's fair.
I think that's important. But I mean, that's pretty much all I got. Do you have anything else you want to touch on games preservation and physical media or anything like that?
Just it does seem like we're moving towards something that I'm used to at this point. It doesn't make it good or bad. It's just it is what it is.
Yeah, I understand. But I mean, we'll have to see. Producer Jeff, do you have any final thoughts?
I just wanted to mention that I have access to Dr. Disrespect's new game Dead Drop now, and I may be doing a small review. For only being in development for a year, this game looks incredible right now, and it's their first draft in artwork as well. I'm blown away at how good it looks. What's that?
Is this a first look at the game?
So he does what's called snapshots, where he's basically being extremely transparent and showing you the state of the game every couple months. And this snapshot is where they just now put the artwork to the world. So it's very plain looking, but the game mechanics are just now there. It looks really good for only a year in development. I was extremely surprised. And a lot of people are shitting on it, of course, because it's an NFT. At least we believe NFTs are going to be involved at one point or another, but as a base bare bones game right now, it looks great.
You guys will have to see. I didn't mention it, but Nintendo's dropping 10 minutes of Tears of the Kingdom gameplay tomorrow.
Oh, I did not know that.
I forgot to put it in the notes, but it got announced today.
10 minutes. That's so
10 minutes tomorrow. I should have mentioned that.
Yeah,
so here's the thing. I made the script. My work's been crazy. So I'm 99% of the script outside of the releases. Yeah. it was going to be on the headlines, and I forgot to add it in. And I was sitting here like wrapping up, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah, we're getting Tears of the Kingdom gameplay tomorrow. 10 minutes of it, I believe, at around like 1 o'clock Eastern.
Okay.
So we'll be talking about it next week.
When you go to watch that, Rome, pop open Streamlabs and put it on your screen and hit record. Record your reaction to that.
Well, I think Streamlabs hasn't. I have to figure it out because remember I uninstalled it because it was messing with my Chrome. I think.
No, that was Oh, was that Streamlabs itself?
Yeah, he said just to delete it. So I think I deleted it.
I thought that was Stream Deck.
No, Streamlabs. I think.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
All right, we'll figure it out.
Talk about it. Maybe we can figure something out. All right. Well, this has been great. I mean, good conversation once again here on the Game Room Podcast. This has been episode 19. Thank you to everyone hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you to Purple, the Doge. Thank you to TJ. Thank you to the Coog. Thank you to everybody else. Please hit that like button and subscribe button on your way out. If you like this, go check out last week's episode of the Game Room Podcast. We had a lot of good discussion last week that kind of led into this week. It was actually really well timed, I think. We had a really good lead up into this week. If you like pro wrestling, we talk about AEW Dynamite and Rampage and really everything AEW and Ring of Honor. We are doing our AEW Dynamite review this week, which we will probably be doing on Thursday, but we'll talk about that later. We are doing a Ring of Honor pay-per-view review show, I believe, right, Jeff? Or are we doing it as a Rampage / pay-per-view review? Do you know?
I'm not even sure yet. We were asked to do a watch-along for the Super Card, but I'm not too sure what we'll do. We'll figure it out.
Content on Friday coming. Content on this week coming for wrestling. So if you like wrestling, you should check us out as well. We really appreciate it. We are currently trying to get up to, I believe, what is it, Jeff? 600 subscribers. We're at 577 right now. We are shooting up in the fives. If we could get to 600, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
that would be a great birthday gift. Turn 30 this weekend, so I would love.
We got a birthday coming up, so.
I did want to mention we have a recent short approaching 40,000 views. I couldn't believe it.
Wow,
that's awesome. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate it here at the Broken Tables Podcast / the Game Room Podcast. You can follow us in our social medias in the description below. Like I said, check out the videos. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Or this week. Yeah, this week.